Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
I got the double fingers ready to go. Welcome and hello. We are so glad that you're joining us for the MuseCast. Shawna Boren, Dan Kent. We are just two happy-go-lucky Minnesotans enjoying our, 3 weeks of good weather?
Yeah, about 3 weeks. That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So yesterday, Dan, Monday, it was gorgeous outside. So pretty. What did you do to capitalize on that moment of it being a gorgeous day in Minnesota?
Oh gosh, wasn't it great? I just I biked about 6 miles. I biked to Kowalski's, and which is a grocery store here. It's like a fancy store here in the Twin Cities. Yeah,
You're
they have a really
bougie,
good salad
Dan.
bar. Yeah,
You're super bougie.
well, they have a really good salad bar. So I got.
do.
So what I do is I get like I get a produce bag, off the roll, and then I fill it with all my salad stuff. I totally do. I totally do. And so then I tie it up, and then I take it home, and then I add a little bit of dressing at home. But
okay.
yeah, so I biked with a salad in my backpack, and it was so fun. It just and when you're on a bike, I tell you, it's like it's almost like flying. Where you're just like cruising, and you see the earth go by so fast, and you're outside and you're active, but it's like invigorating at the same time. It's not like when you're jogging where it's just like tiring. Where this
I don't
like
know what
so
jogging is, so you may have to explain that to me. What is this jogging you speak of?
That's funny. Well, what did you do to enjoy the weather?
Well, I had a few meetings because, Mondays are kind of heavy meeting days for us. But then, I just made sure to get out, and if I was running errands, just to make sure that I parked far enough away so I can enjoy the walk out and stuff. I haven't gotten on the bike yet, but I am looking forward to that. So I'm just, it's so gorgeous. And I made sure like all the windows were open and we could just see and feel the nature and the goodness throughout the house. So that was really great. But you have me beat for your biking 6 miles. That's awesome. That's so cool.
Well, and I need it because I've got the pandemic pouch. I'm like pandemic portly, and I have just gotta return back.
Greg.
Yeah, totally.
Greg are like brothers.
Yes, it's not good.
Oh my gosh. No, you look great, Dan. Everyone does. Dan look great. Yes. Yes. So youthful and lovely.
Right.
All right. Well, this past weekend, it was a fun weekend around Woodland Hills. We got to hear from both Greg and Emily, and Dan. I think they're listening to us because they're giving us like 2 for sermons. Like now,
we're
totally getting super used to that. So again, we got 2 sermons for the price of 1. Greg kicked us off, and then Emily stepped in and provided her perspective as a single woman in the kingdom. And so it was interesting and really good. And it was great to hear from her. Mm-hmm. We love her. And, Gregory did all right as well, as usual.
Yeah, he's all right. He's okay.
He's all right. All right, Dan, I think now is the time for your world famous, because it is world famous, summary.
Yes. Well, you're right. It was a double feature again this weekend. And Greg kind of kicked it off. He talked about this myth of romantic love is what he called it. Yeah. And he looked at, which was really fascinating. He looked at, the history of marriage and just how the nature of it has evolved, and how we're really living in a unique time when it comes to marriage and sort of the stories we tell about marriage. And what that does is like, well, let me just kind of back up a bit. In the past, historically, marriage was largely a functional thing for a society or for a family where you give your daughter or son in marriage to to connect with a particular family or to help your social standing and all of that. And this idea of like romantic love for someone and marrying somebody because you have these feelings for them, it wasn't as robust in the past as it is now. Somewhere in the 19th century, it kind of took on this life of its own where you marry somebody because you love them, because it's very individualistic orientation where it's all about this person will fulfill me, not my family or my tribe or anything like that. It's like they will fulfill me. And so he looked at three aspects of this new narrative, new being the last couple hundred years of romantic love. And he said that the first problem is that it's driven by, first of all, let me just say that there's a lot of good things about this too. I love the fact that I love my wife, and I love spending time with her, and it's somebody who I want to be with, and it's not somebody that I was forced to be with. It's not like a job. It's like something that I enjoy.
You enjoy.
Right.
I know this is so like, we don't do this on the MuseCast. We don't interrupt the summary, but it has to be said, right? Like,
yes.
You and I have incredible spouses. Like you have an amazing wife and I have an amazing husband, and we love them and love being with them. And so this isn't putting the kibosh on that. That's because Dan and I are loud and proud. Like we love our marriages and we love our spouses, and we think it's amazing and great. So
and so I'm so grateful. But there are some potential drawbacks to this narrative on love, and Greg points out three. The first one is that the motivation to marry somebody that you are in love with, that you have all of these feelings for, and all of the expectations of fulfillment that go along with that, it creates like I don't want to get too nerdy, but it's sort of like it creates the groundwork for heightened serotonin activity, which then lays the groundwork for heightened dopamine activity. And what happens then is that your behaviors and your attitude toward that person is driven by a couple neurotransmitters, not by logic or reason or things like that. And you might not be analyzing this person as objectively as you might think you are. And what happens is that when that dopaminergic activity deadens, which it always does, you're stuck with this person that you have made this profound commitment to. And so the first danger is that buzz of romantic love wears off. The second problem that he highlights is that, and this is related to the expectations of fulfillment that we have, and that is nobody can meet those expectations on earth. No one can fulfill you. No one can meet all of your needs. And it's interesting because Barbara and I have talked about this, in our marriage, just like, I need to spend time with my friends, because there's something about my friends that I need that. And she has to spend time with her friends, and she has a family member that she has to spend time with. And that's not because I'm a louse. It's just because I'm a person. It's because nobody to expect that I can meet somebody else's every need and that they can meet all mine. That's absurd. That's not realistic. But that's the expectation that it kind of gets massaged into romantic love in our culture. And that's a big danger. And then the third kind of thing that he highlights is that this myth of romantic love, so many of our movies, end in marriage as if this is the happy ever after. And it's almost like that's sort of the big payoff to living, is being married. And it really kind of makes it look like singles are incomplete. There's something lacking there, and it kind of creates this hierarchy between married people and single people, and so it sort of alienates single people, which is a tragedy. And so those are the three dangers. And then in that last one, Greg invites Emily Morrison up, and Emily, holy cow, she shared such a great message. She kind of looked at some of the biblical case for the value of singleness, and she looked at First Corinthians and so forth. And she talked about like all of the benefits of being single, which I've heard before, but there was something about the way Emily did it where she used the Bible, but she also just used her personal experience and really tied that together so well. And I got to tell you what I really appreciated about it. And I was single. I was unmarried until I was like 38 or 39. And her analogies and everything were just spot on. But what I really appreciated was her just sense of self-confidence and like charisma about being single. And it just wasn't, it wasn't like this problem that needs to be solved. It was this blessing that she was living in. And it's not that if she were to get married, that wouldn't be a different blessing, but so often we tend to think of singleness as the problem to be solved and then marriage as the blessing. And I think what Emily did so well in her message is she just showed, no, it's just moving from one blessing to another potential blessing. And that really kind of creates this equal footing between the two. And then finally, her point is, and I think this is kind of a foundation of our church, and that is that we are a family. We are all brothers and sisters. And it's not like if you're single, you're not part of a family. You are. You're in the kingdom of God. We are a family. And she then shared some ideas of how we can make single people feel more included. And this was, Shawna, this was so brilliant.
You liked it, right?
Think about it. She said that we should invite a single person over for dinner. Emily may never buy food again. I mean, she has set herself up to never have to buy. I know. So I've been thinking, what could I ask for when I preach next? Like maybe if I could work that in, like, you should bring your pastor out on your boat, stuff like that. Maybe I was thinking.
Yes. Chocolate and out on the boat. Those are the two things we need to work into your next sermon.
But it was great. What did you think of it?
Yeah. So, okay. Here on the MuseCast, we're completely transparent, right? And so initially, when I knew the direction this was going, prior to Emily's piece of getting up, I thought, I don't know that I will get anything out of it. Because like I said earlier, I'm in a really fulfilling marriage and I don't gloat about it. I'm just super thankful. I adore my husband and we have a great time together and we're great partners and we really are a team. And so anyway, but like Jesus does, he always has a way of revealing something in the unexpected. And so this is what I was really blessed by. First of all, I know, and we've talked about this, that I know people, I've seen situations where the marriage isn't what you could say or I could say our marriage is, and that's difficult and tough. And so I think it's important to recognize that, and to also, for young folks out there who, for many, not for all, but for many, they are waiting for the one, right? Then everything will be grand. And you're right. And so many times in movies and shows and stuff, it's like, and scene, like right after like the marriage kiss or whatever. And that's where it all ends. But no, that's really where it begins. Like, right. The wedding is one thing and it can be beautiful and amazing, but really it begins like in this life that you share with this person. So, I really think it's important to recognize that, and the cautions of not getting wrapped up in the emotions and bringing in community, I think is really great. But I absolutely adored and loved Emily being up there. And I love that she gave a voice to singleness. Mm-hmm. I have single friends who thrive. They're not just sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for a life partner. They are thriving. And it's not that they have anything against marriage. It's just that for whatever reason, that's just not their space right now. And they're fine with that. And they are doing things in the kingdom and for the kingdom. And so I think that's amazing. I also think that this is a good word, because singleness isn't just young and unmarried. Singleness could be those who have been previously married and now are not for whatever reason. And it could also be those who were happily or unhappily married, whatever, but their spouse has deceased. And so I thought about like the challenge that Emily put forth for those in that singleness space. It can pertain to all facets of singleness, singlehood. And so if you are a widow, God's not done with you yet. And you have a place in the kingdom that you can thrive and be of value, because you do have value. And if you had a marriage for whatever reason that crumbled, like, God is not done with you yet. You have value and you can thrive. And if you have not yet ever been married, and whether that's a desire of yours or not, like, you have a place in the kingdom and you have value and you have things to offer. And so I do love that. Like you said, that's the foundation of it all. Like, we all are a family and we all have a contribution to make to the family, and we all have things we can learn from the family. And so I just really thought that was cool. Again, it takes us out of our individual little silos and says, no, let's come together as a family of God, like Jesus intended for us to be. And so, yeah, I thought it was so fantastic. So great.
It was great. What was weird is she was talking about her first memory being in an airport.
Yes.
And then she used this airport theme and flight theme throughout the whole sermon, her portion of it. And then she talked about the movie The Terminal, where this guy was stuck in the airport. I kid you not, Shawna. I kid you not. When I watched the sermon, I was not at home. I was stuck in an airport in Arkansas. This little hodunk airport in Arkansas, and I was waiting to get to Dallas, but they had storms in Dallas, and so we were delayed and stuck there. And so I'm watching this sermon while I'm stuck in an airport. It was wild.
That is too funny. In Arkansas, in a little dinky.
It was weird. I'm telling you, this airport, it's they call it a Walmart airport because it's basically there for Walmart executives. And there's
in Arkansas, I bet.
Oh yeah, there's like farms, public reserve, kind of like a nature reserve, more farms. You go through these trees, all of a sudden there's an airport. I mean, there's no hotels, no gas stations, just
wow. Interesting.
But I think her analogy too is just about like this idea that singleness is just waiting for the big takeoff or the big event. It really captured the way I definitely felt like pressure to feel when I was single, just kind of like you haven't lived yet because you're still single. And and being a person who I just, like we said, I love my marriage, and I'm very happily married, and I feel very grateful about that. But I don't feel like I was incomplete when I was single. And even though I felt pressure to feel that way. And so I think Emily just really nailed that.
She nailed that. Yeah, I think it's important, in the church, outside of the church, in your family, in your neighborhood, whatever context you find yourselves in. I think we do have to be mindful of those little, sometimes subtle, sometimes not so subtle messages that we send out to folks who are single, like they're missing out, or they're just quite haven't achieved it yet, or oh, poor thing, like surely they're waiting for. And I just want to say, like, if you are single and you choose to be single, and that's just not a focus, like, good for you. Like, be all that you can be for the Lord and for the kingdom, and let us learn from you. And if you are in that place that you do desire a life partner, like, that's okay too. It's like, I don't like the pressure that society puts on folks, like that you're less than, like we've said, if you're not in a certain marital status. I think it's unhealthy and not wise. And I would say too, like, just be careful if you are desiring or longing for a marital relationship, if you're longing for that life partner, and if you're a romantic, that's okay. But just know that if that's your expectation all the time, 24/7, that could be a little difficult, because as much as Dan loves his wife, Barb, as much as I love my husband, Scott, like, we go through stuff, and we challenge one another, and we encourage one another. And there are things outside of our control that happen, and we determine to be a partner, like going through that together. But it's not, high after high after high after high. I think the high is in knowing, like, you're with a person that you can go through it with, whether it's a valley or a peak. Like, that you've got, a teammate.
Yep. Amen. Yeah,
Are you
think that's right.
romantic, Dan?
I think
so
I
curious.
am. Yeah. Well,
Are you?
well, it's great.
Yeah.
We're always like, flirting and just having fun
Yep.
and being silly, and you got to
Yep.
have silliness. I mean, you just
You
have to have silliness.
do.
So, yeah.
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 That's
So,
awesome.
yeah.
Cool. What would be if you were talking to, let's just say a 25-year-old you? What wisdom does the happily married you have that you can maybe speak to a 25-year-old you? And maybe a 25-year-old you was good to be single, and I hope you were, but whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The whole, like, if I could tell myself something.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think, but the problem is there's too many things. There's just, our MuseCast is only 30 minutes long, so I
know
don't want to.
We could be here all day.
But I guess if I had to say one thing, I would say, I think my favorite part of being married is just having a witness. Where you have somebody who knows your story, who knows every situation that comes up. They know the context, whereas other people just see the situation. But it's when you have a partner, you have somebody who knows the context, and it's just kind of like anything. I mean, if you see a UFO and you're all by yourself, it's like, yeah, good luck sharing that with somebody else. They're not going to believe you. They're not going to, but if you're with people and you see the UFO, now you can all know, like there's like a wink and a nod, like, well, we know what we saw, and it doesn't matter what the world says. And that's what it's like being married, where it's like, it doesn't matter what the world says, because they don't know, like my spouse knows, and we know like what that situation meant or whatever. So that's very abstract, but I'll go with that. So how about you?
Great. Yeah, I would say similarly. Like, honestly, okay, so Scott and I have been married. It'll be 23 years this November. And I can honestly say I love spending time with my husband. I love chatting. Like, we send each other goofy notes and goofy texts, and if I'm at work and he's home, or he's at work, and like, we always make sure to find points of connection. And so I think I would just say, just that camaraderie and that partnership. It truly is a partnership for us. I know different people have different ideas of how their marriage looks, and if that works for you, lovely. We just truly are a partner. We've always been that, like with our raising our children and work stuff and church stuff. We just really do trust one another and dialogue through stuff. And I like the way you put it, having a witness, just like someone who really does get you and know you. And I can be a lot. And so there are times when I'm so thankful for my husband's grace, and but we just, it's good. I definitely feel like it is all the good things you hope for when you enter into a life partnership. I feel blessed to experience. And I don't say that to be boastful. I'm just absolutely grateful.
Yeah.
But I do want to say a word, Dan, and maybe you can help with this, to those maybe who are in marriages or who are single and you're not content and you're feeling the struggle. What is it that we can offer from the MuseCast for those folks? So you've got those who are maybe in a marriage and things maybe aren't going well, and those who are single and they're not content in their singlehood, and they're seeking and striving for that ultimate relationship. What would you offer those folks?
Well, for the people who are in a marriage that they're not happy with, I think, there's an endless, infinite reasons why a marriage, they might not be happy with their marriage. But the one thing you have to say is you just have to be able to communicate, what you're unhappy with. And then the second thing is always listen well. So communicate well and listen well, and don't be defensive. If your partner is upset or unhappy or unfulfilled or whatever by something that you're doing, that's a legitimate thing, and you just have to hear it. You might not be able to do anything about it, but you can at least acknowledge it and hear it. And so I think that's the first step toward, healing, is listening well and communicating well without being defensive. And then the other thing is, just being able to communicate what are my expectations for this person. If I'm expecting them to be like a witness, a life partner, the ultimate sexual partner, my best friend, a great mother, all of these things, well,
that's a lot.
Right. I mean, maybe you're expecting too much from one person. And so looking at your expectations too, I think is an important part of it. If you're single and you want to be married, it's so, that's another one where everybody's got their own things. Like, what are they looking for in a spouse and a partner? And I think that's the first step is like, if you want to be married, just have an understanding of what you would like in a marriage partner. And, it's kind of like communicating to yourself and listening to yourself and checking your expectations. But the other thing I would say is this, you should kind of have some of those expectations, but sometimes expectations can be a stumbling block. And I think that when Barbara and I got together, I was starting to get better at just letting people be who they are and finding what I like about them, instead of comparing them to expectations all the time. So I guess I'm talking out both sides of my face here. So I think it's good to know what you want, but at the same time, you got to let people be who they are.
Absolutely. No, I don't think you're talking out of both sides of your face. I think it is good to know how you're wired, what you think that you're looking for, but also don't be afraid to be surprised, because who comes your way may be very different. And can we love and accept a person for who they are? I think that's really great.
Well, don't you feel like with Scott, don't you feel like there are things that you've come to love about Scott that you had no idea about when you first dated him and stuff? I mean,
absolutely. One of the things I tell him frequently, I mean, not like every day or anything, calm down. But one of the things I say frequently is he's everything I never knew that I wanted or needed. Scott and I are literal polar opposites. Like, if you know us, you know this, like we just are, we are complete personality differences. The things that give us energy are different. Like, we are polar opposites. And it has been such a great adventure, like discovering all the stuff about one another. And so, I think you never know who you're going to be surprised by. But I think that also holds true for friendships, which are so vital and so important. People that we engage in our community that we have vital relationships with, like, be willing to be surprised by folks, because it could be the greatest adventure ever if you kind of let go of some of that control.
Yep. I agree.
Yeah.
Well said.
Awesome. Yay. But ultimately, don't sit in the waiting room in the airport terminal thinking that when this happens, your life can begin. No, your life can begin now. Absolutely right now, where you are. Single, married, widowed, divorced. It doesn't matter. Like, you are a person that has value and worth and contributions to make. And I just say we need one another. So let's embrace that and get to live in our life in a way that is fulfilling.
Yep. Amen.
Awesome. Good way to end it.
That's a great way to end it. Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, you guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome, blessed rest of your week. Bye now.